All right, let's go ahead and take a look at where our students are at right now in the process of hanging drywall. So that's the term we use for shaping, cutting, and then installing onto ceilings and walls. Hang the rock. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of walk you around the shop here and show you a variety of different stages. And then I'm going to take you over to one and actually go through the process of measuring, marking, cutting, and then installing and making sure it fits. Because what we've been talking about is your job as a drywall installer is to create life-size puzzle pieces. So if you like puzzles, this is your gig, man, because we can measure, mark, and we have to duplicate what the wall has in it. So in this case, we have 3 pieces, one for the ceiling, one for the upper part of the wall, one for the lower. Up here, simple piece, rectangle. Here, rectangle, plus we had to cut out the window. Piece number 3, that's the big challenge piece. Okay, has 5 different items from large junction box, single gang, drain line, water line, so 5 different custom cutouts. So that becomes a really challenging piece. Now, want to report as I kind of walk along and show you, this crew looking pretty good. Install, excellent. This crew looking pretty good. We missed it right here a little bit. So we didn't lay out properly, and now we've got an opening that we need to fill the gap. We come down, number 3, they're a little bit behind, and the other 2, but we had a major issue right there, okay? So we mismeasured and miscut, so now we've got a large rectangle that we're gonna have to put a full patch in and make that work. I will teach that. If we go over here on this side, the crews again, working in different stages. This crew, pretty good shape. Missed it a little bit here, got a little bit too wide there, but so far so good. This crew over here, looking pretty good. Missed it down here again. The others are pretty good. Now, here's the one I wanted to share with you, because for the first time in 9 years of teaching this module and teaching drywall hanging techniques, there has only been 1 student crew that have made the measure, mark, cut, and fit in 1 step. They measured accurately. The system that we used this year, I've never used it before. I'm going to teach you it just here in a minute. But high school students first take every single piece, fit and matched 100% according to the plan. So super proud of them, super proud that we've created a system of measure, marking, and cutting that a high school student, never done this before, 15, 20 minutes of training and the right tools and techniques. Next thing you know it, voila, we're hanging drywall like a professional. So super proud of that. I'll teach you that in just a minute. And then this crew down here, looking pretty good. We missed it here a little bit, so we have to cut it out a little bit more, but ultimately, we're getting really close. And that's incredible considering they've never done this before. So let me take you over to the one where I'm going to actually show you this technique. And for those of you that say you don't like geometry, this is going to be fun because you're going to like geometry, because that's basically what we're doing here. We have to take a certain shape, geometric shape, and then we have to match it to other geometric shapes, rectangles, circles, and all of which have a reference point that we can then mathematically calculate how to cut this piece. And here's what we did. We created a jig, okay? Little piece of wood. We made the jig the exact outside shape of our junction box. Small rectangle. We've got a second type of junction box here. This is called a 2-gang J box because we can put 2 fixtures in here. So we made a second jig. And what we said is, if we have the top left corner right there is our reference point, and we could figure out the top left corner of the physical object, transfer those lines to our board, and simply take our jig, line it up with that corner, make sure it's square, trace it with a Sharpie, and then cut it out, that should create the right location, the right size, and it did, okay? But if we can't measure accurately, and then we're gonna double check this screw right here, because they already kind of marked it, and I just, by my eyeballs, know that this is not right. I can just tell it's not squared up, and so we'll double check. But we're gonna use this same process. So if this is the top left corner, our top left corner reference is right there. So everything we measure needs to be left side and top of where this board is gonna seam underneath. So the reference point horizontally, the reference point vertically, you measure over, down, X marks the spot, put it in the top left corner, voila, we should be good. All right, let's go through that process, okay? So I'm gonna just slide this over so you can kind of see it. I'm gonna bring you in a little closer, and let's see if we can make this work for us here. Okay, so step one, measuring tape, left-hand side to the left-hand side of the box, and if I measure that, that's 3 1/8. So I come over here and I go 3 1/8, and I put my vertical mark there. Then I'm going to measure from the top edge of where the seam's going to be down to the top of the box, and that's 1 1/4. So then I put my tape on the top edge. There's our bell, 1 1/4. All right. Now, all we got to do is connect these lines horizontally and vertically. So I know I'm up here in the corner, and voila, my speed square is going to be long enough. So if I take my speed square and I put it across the top, because I know this is factory edge, it's 90 degrees, and I mark down the side, and then I flip it for a horizontal off of this factory edge, and I make that the top edge. If you're seeing that, the Sharpie pencil is what the students laid out today. They were off easily by 1/2 inch to 3/8 on either side, so we're double checking them, but you and I are learning how to do it. So now this is going to be the double gang jig box. So then we take this and we line it up in that top left corner, and we use our lines to keep it square, and then we're going to take our Sharpie. I'll explain why we're using a Sharpie here in a minute. And we're going to trace our box. Top, side, side, bottom. Outstanding. So my line inside, their line outside. So whatever they did, they traced the jig wrong. Oops, because the jig is not the same size as this, and then they had their top left corner in the wrong location. So if they would have cut this, it wouldn't have fit, and they would have had too large of a gap on the left side and the top, and they'd have to fill it. That's not what we want. What we want is just a 1/8 of an inch gap between the top of the jig and where we're actually going to be cutting, 1/8 of an inch. Hence the reason we're using a Sharpie. If I measure the thickness of that Sharpie line, it's 1/8 of an inch. Super cool, I don't even have to measure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cutting tool and I'm going to cut on the outside edge of the Sharpie line, outside edge. It will add an 1/8 of an inch all the way around. That's what we want to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room. And voila, we solved 2 problems with a jig and a Sharpie. Voila, geometry's working. Okay, so let's go ahead and check the rest of theirs real quick, or at least one more on camera, and then I'll switch over and I'm going to show you how we're actually going to cut these, and that will finish this out. Okay, so the second junction box is right here, so we'll go through that same process. We're going to measure from the left over, and here's another technique. On our tape measure, right, we have that little thumb lock right there. Okay, it holds it. The cool news is that little ledge right there, if I put that against my stud and then I pull my tape over until it touches the box, look at there, it holds the measurement for me. Love that, because then I can move it from here over to my board, and I can draw my line. Voila. Good news is, that one was correct. Then I'll flip it and do the same thing from here. But on this side, I'm going to put the bottom of the tape at the bottom edge of the seam, pull down until it touches the box. Thumb lock is still engaged, so now look, I have another measuring stick. So if I then switch it and I put this on the top edge and I come down here and I mark the top edge of that, look at that. Voila, we have top left corner from the top left corner reference point. Boom, boom. Good news here, students have it right on the point, okay? They measured correctly. What I'm gonna do now is double check with this little jig, okay? And if they traced it properly, which they did, that layout line is ready to rock and roll. Super good. Okay, so we got 2 rectangles done. Now, if I slide this over one more time, you're gonna see we have the drain line right here and the water line. Hey, those are circles. How do we mark circles? We mark circles with the inside radius. Okay, this super cool tool is called a hole saw. So it cuts holes and uses the center point. There's the teeth. And as long as we lay out the center point of whatever we're trying to drill through, time to go to class, everybody, let's go. Center point to center point, the geometry is done because we have a tool that's cutting a perfect circle. Love it. Okay, so all we have to do here is measure again, over and down, but to the center point of the drain. Easy peasy. So if I'm going to come from the left, I'm going to hook that there. I'm going to lock my tape. I'm going to pull it over until I'm just kind of eyeballing the center because the hole is a little bit bigger, so we got some wiggle room. So that's my left mark. So I come over here, transfer my left mark. Then I go from the top down to the middle and then move that over to our board. And this time I'm going to put it right over the top of where our first line was. Gives me X marks the spot. Super good. That's going to be the drain line, and then we do the same for the water line. Voila, layout complete. Okay, let's cut some stuff out, make a puzzle piece, all right? So I'm going to switch camera views, and then we'll get back to you. All right, here we go. So this super cool tool is called an oscillating tool. So we can put in different shaped blades, and it oscillates back and forth really fast. Ready? Watch this. Woo, super good. So in this case, we're going to put onto the tool our drywall cutting blade, which has a square edge and then an angled edge, which is beautiful for cutting rectangles. So what we want to do is we're going to use this squared off edge here, and that's going to be the start of our top left corner. Now this tool is used to plunge into the material and then tilt it and then glide it through the material and let the blade do the work super fast. And all of a sudden we can make these very surgical, very accurate cuts with minimal dust and mess, because that's what we want to do. So we're going to set it up. Here we go. Switches on the top side. Fire up the tool. Switch over to the second side. Go across the top. Finish up the corners. Voila. There we go. First piece done. 3, 2, 1. So, great thing about the hole saw, makes a beautiful thing, but then we got this puck stuck in here. Now, with this particular tool, what's beautiful is we have a quick release. So if I pull down on that collar, it pops out, and then I can set that tool down. And then what we're gonna do is just use our standard screwdriver, like so, and we're gonna put it in one of these holes and just pop the puck, and voila. All good, hole saws are ready to go. We can take it back and put it back on our tool. Just follow through, snap lock, ready for our next hole. Okay, the last step is that we actually have to attach our life-size puzzle piece to the actual wall. So we're gonna be using the standard 1¼ inch drywall screw, and we need to be able to anchor it through the drywall into the support studs behind. Now, we have to make sure when we drive the screw that it is just below the surface, but doesn't actually break the paper and the screw head goes too deep in the material. Then we don't have any strength. It's just chalk and paper. So we have to have a specialty tool that allows us to drive it just the right depth and dimple just around where the screw head is so that it holds, but then we can finish it and we won't actually see the screw heads when we're done texturing and painting. All good. Well, we're gonna put the dimpling tool back into our drill driver, and we're gonna just show you how this demos, okay? So this particular tool, it has 4 different adjustments on it. We're gonna be using setting 2 for our setup, and then we're gonna put it on the drill mode because we don't want the clutch to stop it spinning. This has a built-in clutch system. Voila, solving all of our problems. So it's magnetic, so we can load into the driver, which is always good. Then in our case, I'm just gonna make sure we like the position of our drywall, which everything is looking good. We're gonna push through the paper, add just a little bit of twist, and then we're gonna drive it. Beautiful. Okay, we're gonna add one more over here, load the screw, come down about 3/4 of an inch to get it started. Boom. All day long. Every 6 to 12 inches, depending on where you're at. No more than 16, says code in residential drywall. And all of a sudden, we can work the perimeter and then going down our verticals of our studs. And we've got our drywall hung, installed, and ready for our next step, which is taping and texturing. So stay tuned. We'll get back to that as the students progress, and we'll teach you those steps as well. All right, take care. Keep building something great.